All right, we're back on TITV, and it's time to bring in my main man, Rodney Orr, here, because we got recruiting to talk about. And I got to tell you, Rodney, my phone has really rung off the hook the last couple of days with Alabama fans wanting to know what's going on with Dr. Phillips, Orlando, Florida high school standout, running back D. Hart. This is a guy with over 3,000 yards rushing, phenomenal football player. It was reported last week that he was set to switch his commitment from Michigan to Alabama. Earlier in the year, it looked like he would commit to Alabama. He committed to Michigan. Now, I understand maybe the holdup isn't on D. Hart's end. It might be on Alabama's end. What's the latest here?
Could be. D. Hart, again, Gary's probably your prototypical spread formation type running back, and I think that he fits in an offense better like Michigan, possibly Florida, maybe even Auburn, than maybe he would Alabama in terms of being a running back. He'd probably be more of an all-purpose type player at Alabama, but again, he is a tremendous talent, great punt returner. You know, first of all, D. Hart's going to graduate early, so he is going to want to enter school in January, and you have to have a spot, and I'm not sure that Alabama has a spot in January for him to enter school. And, you know, he was going to do that at Michigan, and wherever he goes, that's probably what he'll do. But, again, I just don't know that Alabama has a spot to take him right now.
And as of right now, he's still committed to Michigan, but it looks like Florida, the home state Gators, making a push there, too.
They've gotten in the mix. They certainly have. You know, we'll just, see what happens. And, again, if he's going to enter school in January, he's going to have to make a decision really quickly. So
yeah, and one thing's for sure, if there's an update on him, you'll have it on TiderInsider.com. Okay, you mentioned Hart, as talented as he is, being more of an all-purpose back, use him in different ways. Isaiah Crowell, more of the traditional running back in the Trent Richardson, Mark Ingram mode.
Yep, and Alabama's been really strong on Isaiah Crowell. Some people consider him the #1 running back in high school football from Carver High School in Columbus, Georgia. Other people, Malcolm Brown out of the state of Texas. But, there's been times that Alabama's been considered the leader for Isaiah, but he is a lifelong Georgia fan. And, Gary, I think right now Isaiah Crowell is going to be tough to pull away from Georgia, to be honest. And I know that disappoints a lot of Alabama fans who kind of thought that Isaiah was locked up for Alabama. But just to be honest, I think right now he's leaning towards Georgia, and it's going to be difficult to get it. I'm not saying Alabama can't. I'm saying I think it's going to be difficult.
You're just giving the latest. Hey, last weekend was huge in Tuscaloosa. Now, a lot of people say, well, why didn't they have all these official visitors in for the Auburn game? And they had a lot of unofficials in. But one reason you want to take have your official visitors in when there is no game is the coaches can spend a lot more time with them. You can really visit with them more. When you're preparing for a big ball game, it's a limited amount of time that you can actually spend with prospects. But this past weekend was a big one for committed and uncommitted players. Why don't you run them down, beginning with Malcolm Fashawn, the big tight end out of Picayune, Mississippi, a commitment for Alabama, though he dealt with an injury this year.
Yeah, Malcolm's a tremendous prospect. I mean, Alabama got in on him early, got a commitment from him, and a lot of schools wish they had him. And then he injured his knee, missed part of his senior year, but he should be okay to report in June, healthy, and, probably a redshirt type guy. But at the same time, he is a tremendous prospect, regardless of the injury.
There is a possibility that in a few years it could be starting at offensive tackle, Conjo and Conjo for the Crimson Tide.
Cyrus and Ari. Cyrus, we talked to Coach Bill McGregor at the high school up there at Hyattsville, DeMatha Catholic, and Cyrus had a great visit to Alabama. He's also considering USC, Auburn. He's going to take a visit to Auburn. I know a lot of Alabama fans were surprised by that in our report. Iowa's in the mix, and but I think obviously right now with Ari's connection here, playing here as a redshirt freshman, this year being a redshirt freshman, going into next year, I think that Alabama certainly has the inside track with Cyrus, and some people think, he's one of the top 2, 3, 4 offensive tackles in the country.
Yeah, this next offensive tackle, not as well known as Cyrus Conjo, but Aaron Morris is a guy out of Callaway High School in Jackson, Mississippi, that Alabama's liked for a long time.
Let me tell you, Gary, he's one of the more underrated players, unsung players in the South. I guarantee you he is one of the top offensive linemen in the Southeast. Tremendous-looking prospect. Talked to his coach today, in fact, and Aaron is committed to Ole Miss. He committed to Ole Miss after visiting Alabama this summer. He made an early commitment to Ole Miss, but they've got a lot of issues over there in Oxford right now, and he's kind of starting to look around a little bit. Made his official visit to Alabama with his mother over the weekend. They were both highly impressed. So Alabama's in there, but also Auburn's still in the mix. Ole Miss certainly still in the mix, along with Mississippi State.
And is there a chance that Nick Saban could dip into Baton Rouge and steal Jeremy Hill away from LSU?
He's a 2,000-plus yard rusher, 36 touchdowns this year. Tremendous player, no question about that. If you didn't get Isaiah Crowell, certainly landing Jeremy Hill would be a huge pickup for Alabama. And, you know, he's been committed to LSU for a long time. I mean, he's right there in Baton Rouge, so it'd be very difficult. But, again, he did decommit yesterday from LSU, has made the visit to Alabama. So, obviously, just coming off that visit, there's probably something to that in terms of, you know, his interest in Alabama. And I think that Auburn's also in the mix and Tennessee as well. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens between Alabama and LSU, Gary.
And the Tide has long thought to be the leader for Xavier Dixon out of Griffin, Georgia. But here again, in-state Georgia making a big push.
Again, talked to his coach earlier this week, and Xavier's been leaning to Alabama for quite some time. Georgia has made a strong push. He grew up a Georgia fan. You know, we've known that all along. And, you know, they've recruited him really hard. But, you know, again, we'll see what happens. He makes his official visit to Georgia this coming weekend, and I think after that visit we'll have a little bit better, or at least he'll have a better idea, because he won't announce his decision until January the 6th at the Under Armour All-American game, and then we'll know.
And, Rodney, we've seen defensive linemen out of Mississippi Junior College make a huge impact in the SEC. Terrence Cody, Nick Fairley, the defensive end over at Mississippi State right now.
Yep.
His name escapes me, but number 90, outstanding player.
Yeah, you're talking about Pernell McPhee.
Yeah, McPhee. Now, Leon Mackey, originally a South Carolina signee, is another one of these guys that's probably going to be ready to play right away in this conference.
Originally from Wilmington, Delaware, Gary. As you mentioned, South Carolina's in there very strongly. Could you imagine if they got Leon Mackey and Jadeveon Clowney? That's a couple of really outstanding defensive end prospects. But, you know, Mackey did make the visit to Alabama this past weekend. Alabama's in there strong. Now, you know, Nick Saban generally does not sign junior college players that are not mid-year transfers that can come in and go through spring practice. He did it last year. Dequan Minzy came in the summer. So he must really, really like Leon Mackey because they are recruiting him very hard.
And let's not forget big Quentin Dial from East Mississippi Community College, 6'5", about 315 pounds, 6'6", maybe even, originally from Clay Chalkville High School near Birmingham, is coming in January to play for Alabama next season. Okay, let's get to the phones, Rodney. They're lining up to talk with you. Let's take our first phone call tonight from Caleb up in Hubbardville. Caleb, welcome into TITV.
Thanks, guys. I just want to say the Capital One Bowl is a great bowl, and Roll Tide. I know Mark Barron tore his pectoral muscle.
Right.
I just want to know if he can take his place.
Well, Caleb, they're going to probably look at a number of combinations there. Right off the bat, freshman Nick Perry might be in the line for some playing time.
Yeah, that's exactly who I thought of from Prattville. Certainly will get an opportunity. And, you know, the one thing about it, and we talked about this last week, Gary, with the bowl practices, the younger guys are going to get a lot more reps, a lot more opportunities. So certainly Nick Perry will get an opportunity during that time, the bowl practices, maybe to prepare himself to maybe get a starting role. We'll see.
All right, we're going to take a break. We've got CB and Chris waiting to talk with us, so hold the line there, fellas, and we'll get to you and more phone calls when we come back. Right back to the phones, our good buddy CB. CB, you got your ears on, I know.
Man, yeah, look, Coach Stallings sure is a class act. He's a man of character. So many of these coaches make the big cheese, my friend, and you know, have records that come with a requirement for someone to be such a jerk, or is it just a lot of them in the SEC? What do y'all think?
Well, you're right. Coach Stallings knew how to conduct himself on the field, off the field. He was a Southern gentleman, certainly tough and hard-nosed, but, you know, he came from a different era. And so I'm not going to criticize the coaches today. You got to remember, Coach Stallings has been gone now for 14 years, and it's just a different climate now.
Well, you know, Gary, a lot of people, when you remember when Stallings was hired, certainly there were a lot of people who questioned the hire because he had not been very successful at Texas A&M as a college coach, had not been very successful in the NFL, but he was a perfect fit here for Alabama. Certainly he brought back that feel of Coach Bryant. He brought back a lot of the assistant coaches who had ties here, and he just related so well to his players and got them to play so hard. 70 wins, Gary, in 7 years. I mean, that's tough to beat.
Especially when you're only playing 11 games a year.
That's right.
Regular season games. All right, let's go to Cuba and talk to Chris. Cuba, I'm assuming the town in Alabama, not the country. How you doing, Chris? Chris, you with us? Well, Chris wanted to know which Alabama juniors will return and who will come out early, and that's a question that really only time will be able to answer. But you've got guys like Barron, Darius, Ingram, Julio Jones, all project fairly high in the NFL draft. Sophomore that's a third-year sophomore, Dante Hightower falls into that category. I'm sure they're going to turn in their names to the draft and see what their status is and be evaluated and make their decisions on what's best for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to guess, you would certainly say Darius is probably definitely gone. I don't think there's any question about that. I know a lot of people say, well, he didn't have a great year. He's gone. I mean, the chances of him coming back are very, very slim. I don't think there's any question about that. Julio Jones, probably gone. Mark Ingram, I would say probably gone. Again, that's just a guess right now, but I would certainly think Marcel Darius, Julio Jones, you know, you could pretty much bank on those two being gone.
Yeah,
probably Ingram.
You got to remember, folks, and I get this all the time, well, so-and-so didn't have a great year. The NFL scouts are judging on potential and how they will play at the next level. Certainly production's important, but it's only part of the equation, and they draft on a lot of other different things, and all those guys that we've talked about are top NFL prospects. You can bet on that. All right, let's take an email from Lamar. And Brent, what has happened to Andre Smith? I have watched several Bengals games and haven't seen or heard anything about him. Well, Lamar, he is trying to find his way. He finally got into the starting lineup this year and then got hurt again. So it's been a combination of being overweight, out of shape, poor play, and then finally when he was making progress this year, the injury bug bit him. But I'll tell you this, as an offensive lineman, and you know this, Rodney, you don't always just walk right into the NFL. This used to be a position a lot like quarterback. Back in the old days, they would develop these guys over time, but now with all the big money contracts, they're expected to play right away. But he could still wind up being a very fine player. I'm not ready to give up on him yet.
No, but at the same time, let's be honest. I think Andre Smith's as talented probably as they come, but you know, you have to question Andre Smith's want to. I questioned it when he was here sometimes. And again, that's not necessarily being critical of him. I mean, just based on what you see, you have to be honest. And, you know, sometimes you wonder.
But he's got a lot of talent. And sometimes talent can trump everything. If he just gets the rest of it together, he can still be a good player. Well, when we return, a former Alabama golfer makes his lifelong dream come true. Tiger Insider TV continues in just 2 minutes live from the University of Alabama campus. Stay with us. And finally, former Crimson Tide golfer Michael Thompson has earned his PGA Tour card for 2011. Thompson finished tied for 16th at the Tour's qualifying tournament in Winter Garden, Florida. His eagle on the 17th hole during Monday's final round pushed him over the top. He finished the 6 rounds they have to go, at 11 under par. Now, think about this. 10 under made it, 9 under went to the Nationwide Tour. So had he not made that eagle, if he'd have parred that hole, he would have gone to the Nationwide Tour, but that would have been okay with him. He told the Golf Channel that, hey, I played the Hooters Tour the last couple of years, so either way, I felt like I was going to move up. The PGA Tour, though, that's icing on the cake.
Wow.
You know, I was very happy to be here when I got here. I'm one of the lucky few. I played on the Hooters Tour this past year, had a great year, loved it. Just kind of worked my way, played consistent, and I was lucky in that when I got here, I'm happy to be here because no matter what, I'm moving up to the next level. So whatever happened, it was going to be great no matter what. And so that put me in the right mindset.
And Rodney, he'll join two-time Tour winner Jason Bone as former Bama golfers with full-time status on the PGA Tour. Steve Lowry has turned 50 and moved up to the Champions Tour. Okay, time to go to dinner. Buddy's Rib and Steak. We're headed your way in Northport. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can find it on the web, WVUATV.com. And for Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week on TITV.